bug was, getting a new game. I remember when we got Missile Command, and I had it outside and back before we were putting our bolt. We had to put a lock and bolt on it. So we were drilling the cabinet to put a bar on it. And it was playing Missile Command with the black. The screen was black, of course, and you had this vivid color. And my brother and I used to, mention when we went to bed that night, we could see the missiles and the ships in our head. Because outside in the dark, it kind of just eats into your eyes.
Absolutely.
And Missile Command was one of the first games to be 50 cents a play.
And that was a lot of money back then?
Yes, and that didn't last long.
So before we get to how you became the king of the TNT empire, you mentioned you basically started out as an operator, right?
Yes.
Okay, how difficult was it to break into the operating industry?
It was almost impossible.
And why is that?
The big guys had contracts and accounts tied up, and they were willing to give gifts. So the 7-Eleven guy, to have his stuff at the 7-Eleven, the guy said, look, I'm going to put my games in, I'm going to sign you to a 1-year, 2-year contract. We split the money 50-50, and here is $10,000 just for you.
As a gift.
And they would give a gift out.
Not a payoff, a gift.
Gift. This is for you. Cash. So if you do some quick math, the schlub that comes in and wants to put his games in a 50-50, he's going to say, well, what am I getting? And there was no money. And now some places offered loans, no interest loans. So the guy would come in to, let's say, a bar and put 10 games out. A jukebox, cigarette machine, back then they were cigarette machines and things. And they said, his bar owner would say, look, I need 20,000. And then he would take the money out of the weekly collection to pay back the 20,000. But of course, at the end of the 20,000 payback, he wants another 20,000. So if you were in the vending business, you had to have a lot of money out, and a lot of it was cash. You also risked the place closing. The only time I loaned money was to a guy. He had a little variety store, I guess you could call it. He sold soda and candies and stuff, and they shut the electric off. So we needed 600 to turn the electric back on, and I loaned him the 600, and I was going to take the money out. We were grossing 200 a week, so it would take me 6 weeks to get the money back. And 2 weeks later, he was gone. That was the end of that, so I lost my money. So it wasn't a lot, but
Back then it was a decent amount of money, and you weren't making tons of money as an
I was
operator,
able to get the games back at least.
which is the important thing.
But vending was just awful. And once again, some of the places were connected. So
Allegedly.
no, these were connected. Oddly enough, I just
one of
heard-
us is trying to keep you out of trouble.
So,
Allegedly.
well, they're gone now. But,
Was it just matter of fact business working with that type of guys, or was it different?
yeah, I stayed away from the trouble. I stayed clear. I don't want any problems. So I ended up with the locations that the other guys really didn't want. And they didn't make a whole lot. The sandwich shops that were only open 6 days a week, till they closed at 5, and they would gross 100, 200, 300 a week, and you get half of that. And, when are we gonna get a new game? And, so if you looked at the meters of my games, most of them never made their money back, most of the games. So then I had a partner too. We had an arcade in New Hope, Pennsylvania, which was, we got grandfathered in with the arcade. That was probably our best location. And in the summer, we would gross 1,500.
For the entire
50,
summer?
50 each week.
Oh, okay.
And only in the summer months, though. So you had about a 12-week period of high money. But operating sucked.
Well,
It really did.
not only did it suck from a cash flow standpoint, but you mentioned the places you were putting your games could be trouble. What happened to some of your machines when they were out of their roots?
Well, there was always break-ins. what I did, I figured out that if I put the lock that you put your key in and turn has a keeper. And I would use a key-to-like master lock that was real cheap. The keeper was easy to pry. And then I put a small padlock on it. So this means that if somebody wanted to break in, they could easily pop the padlock and they could pry the door open without denting the door and making a big ass hole in the cabinet. These other vendors would put these big thick bars and things, and they literally ruin the game to get in there because they mostly hit the machine after closing. They would break into the store, rob the store, and then rob the games. And, we had a swim club where they didn't break in the games, they peed in them.
Right through the coin slot?
Yes, right through the coin slot. So
And-
next day, when we went to do the collection, there was water in there, but it wasn't.
In the cash pan.
Yes, it wasn't water.
And what do we do when someone pees on the quarters?
Well, first of all, you're pretty sick to start. But in this location, we dumped all the money and the piss into a slop sink and soaked it and washed it, and then we dried the coins and then ran it through the counter.
Was the cash pan completely full?
No, not of piss either. I don't think anybody, these were young kids, I guess, so they didn't have a lot of pee-pee in them.
Have you dealt with cash pans that, for whatever reason, didn't get emptied?
Yes, I sold a Miss Pac-Man, one of the few brand new games I sold between '79 and '84 was a Miss Pac-Man. You had to have it. It was a little row house in northeast Philadelphia, and he paid, I think, I tacked on $400 or $500, so it was like $31.99, a brand new Miss Pac-Man. And he called me up a few months later. It wasn't long. They said the game won't do anything. It's frozen. So when I went out, I opened up the coin door, and the quarters literally fell out. So what had happened is the coin switch got stuck, and it freezes the game. And
Because it was full of
it was
quarters.
full of quarters. And the Miss Pac-Man cash pan holds $550 in quarters.
How do you know that?
Because I counted them.
By hand?
He said, I'm using it as a bank to pay it off. I said, well, you got back a sixth of your money. So it just has to keep putting coins in. I always thought that was kind of funny why you put quarters in. But that's what people did, it was like, as they said, a bank. Most places, when we deliver a game and we do a bank, or a setup or something like that, we tell them it's really best not to do quarters because your quarters will disappear. Now, if you have games at home and you're the kind of person that thinks it's kind of neat, you have a bowl, you have quarters here and there. When you finish up for the night, you're probably not going to have all the quarters, even if you empty the games. The quarters have a habit of just accidentally going into pockets and things. And then usually 2 weeks later they call me and say, how do you make it free play? Or something like that. They lose the attraction of the quarters. Now today, there are arcades, as you know, flat rate arcades opening, and some are closing, but most are opening. And half of them are flat rate, but no more than that. But there are people running quarters still and tokens, which I think is a big mistake. And the reason is, the customer, you make more money. So let's say you have 60 games in a room, and they're all quarter driven. And maybe you have one or two that are 50 cents, but let's just assume they're all quarter. Even the pinball machines. If somebody walks in the room and they spend an hour and a half in the room, when they leave, if you were to check, if they were the only ones there and you checked all the quarters, you probably got $5 out of them, maybe. And they're done. They're not coming back. They're for the day. They're finished. But if you charged them $10 for an hour or $20 for all day, they would still only say maybe for 2 hours. And maybe they go out and have a sandwich and come back for half an hour. But they would only play about $8 worth of games or $9. But they would perceive they got their value, their money value. And you would have a 10 or a 20 in your hand. and they would have gotten their value because they could try any game. So maybe they could go up and play an odd game they haven't seen for a while, and we're never really good at it. And they play it 10 times at a quarter. That's $2.50. But they could take their time and realize they don't have to put another quarter in. And the perception is that they're getting a good deal. Now, I was the first one in the country, I think in the world, to start the flat rate arcade in '87, when I offered the parties at my place. Pay one price, and the whole place is yours, 60 games, everything's on free play. Then I have little stuff on the wall. There's a lot of things to do at my place, for any age. And you do whatever you want. When we first got, in 1989, I actually bought several brand new games, brand new, and they never went out to be vended. I bought a Dance machine,
Which is still
when
there.
I started parties. Now I changed it, the eighth mix. Do you know that it wasn't the dance machines was a disaster when they came out, and they
Some
stopped
people would
making
say they
them.
still are, by the way.
They stopped making.
If you've seen some of the people on the dance machines, I mean,
Well, they stopped making them, I think, in '94, '95.
Probably right, yeah.
That was it. And then they got a big resurgence. So the next brand new dance machine was 2007. It was called Dance Supernova. And I think there's a Supernova
yep, there
here.
is a Supernova here. Yes.
They only made 175 of these machines for the world. That's it. The whole world, 175. That's all Konami made. They were 14,500. And that's what I paid for mine, and it has never left the showroom.
And it's one of the most popular things you have in the showroom, right?
Yes, and when you open the back up, sitting as happy as can be right there in the center is a PlayStation 2.
Go figure.
Happy as can be. And then, of course, there's an amplifier to have all the bass, and then there's a light control, the neon transformers, and then there's a little computer deck. And the only thing that's gone wrong is the PlayStation did crap out. I called Nintendo extreme bloody murder.
Well, since Nintendo didn't create the PlayStation, I bet they were quite amused by that. You may have
Did
called
you like that?
Sony PlayStation Division, and they hung up on you as most
And
people
I
do.
used a rotary phone.
Of course.
But then we had the TV fail. So we changed that with a flat screen. But that was it.
So you bought that one. What else did you buy at that time? What were your
A
first?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 4-player, brand new. And that was the only game we had where the hostesses would have to take names, and each child was allowed to play it for 5 minutes. And it was busy the entire party except when we sang Happy Birthday. And the kids would line up, and the hostesses were pretty good. It's, no, we got to switch. So that got played the whole party, and that booked a lot of parties. Mortal Kombat 2 booked parties.
Of course.
That was the third game.
Yep.
And that was it.
That's where you started?
No, that was the last of the
Oh.
people lined up type of thing,
Gotcha.
where they had to wait, and that was it. And now, when the kids come to the parties, things have changed, and now want to play hide and seek.
And you have holes in the walls
Yes.
and tunnels. Why don't you tell
So-
them a little about the tunnel. Tell them a little about the layout of TNT.
Well, we took over an office building when I bought the building in '86, which was a very wise move when I purchased the building. And we just took all the doors off the offices. And I was approved in Pennsylvania, the fire code, I can have 1 to 50 in my facility. At 51, everything changes. The doorways have to be bigger, I can't have the little aisles, everything changes dramatically. So I said I made the party room small on purpose, so I wouldn't be tempted.
So TNT, the layout of
Have
TNT,
more.
you have the showroom in the front when you walk in the door. It's a number of rooms. You have a room
There's
up-
6.
Okay.
Six rooms.
A number of rooms, and then you walk into the back, and what you're talking about is the kitchen party area.
Right.
Now, how many parties have you done over the years?
Over 25,000 parties.
And I can
So-
tell you, on weekends, the place is booked, open to close. It's
It's
on average.
Weekdays are no longer booked. We used to have waiting lists, because we could only do 2 parties really on Monday through Thursday because of school. And then we could do 3 on Friday, 5 or 6 on Saturday if they wanted a 9:15 to 11:15 at night, and then 4 or 5 on Sunday because it's school night the next night. Most of our parties were kids' parties at first. Now that has since changed. We're doing a lot of adult parties. We also offer for free a tour of TNT. As long as they have they're prepared to trip and fall. They've paid their hazard insurance.
And no one's
to
tripped
walk
in,
around our
well,
place.
okay, that's not true. Somebody just tripped a week or so ago.
Yeah.
That's a side story.
That was a good one. The security cameras caught it. So. But the kids now have changed. I'm sure you've seen it. Now we have some kids here. But kids are our future. We don't get kids involved in pinball and arcade games.
Okay.
We're really in trouble. And because I don't want to become. I remember a friend of mine collected console radios from the 30s and 40s, and they summed it all up. They said this is an old man's hobby, and there's no new people that want to do it. And we don't. Of course, we don't want that to happen. We have different people that play pinball. We have the people that play it to compete, but they're different than the people that play it casual.
And the ones who want to own machines.
And the ones who want to own. The people that play it to compete don't want to own anything, and they just want to play. So there's and that group has been growing, especially women. There's a lot more women involved because pinball was never for women. They didn't even want to go near it. My wife still doesn't want to play. She doesn't know what the buttons on the side are.
Well, it's also because you're there and she wants to spend as much time away from you as possible. Yeah, I know.
The only thing she'll play are the touch screens and Pac-Man. That's it. But she has no desire to play.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, trying to be as inclusive as is possible as far as arcade and pinball is really important. We saw that here. I mean, the Houston Arcade Expo has done a fabulous job of that. But you've also done it in bringing young folks in to work on the machines,
Yes.
right? Tell these folks a little bit about that.
We try. Believe it or not, there's still a lot of kids that are motivated. We're talking 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boys at this point. No women have come up. No girls have. But we're training them, and we kind of open their eyes because before I hire them, I said things get salty.
Salty is a good word for it.
Well, I do tend, every so often I lose my temper.
No, you're kidding. I've never seen that. Never.
Well, I could lose it and then smile. Say, I can't believe you did that!
See, little known secret about Todd, when he blows up like that, he's not really angry. When Todd is bothered by something, he gets very quiet and very focused. And he broods a bit, and everybody knows that's when you stay away from him. When he's being like this and he's yelling and screaming, most of the time he's just screwing around.
Or imitating some of my wretched customers. I have some there, so oh my gosh. And the emails I get. If I squeeze it tight like that, I have that many emails from nutcases. I call them nutcases, losers, dreamers, insane people.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know you talked about it recently on one of the videos, but can you take a minute or two and tell us the parrot story? Do you not want to tell the parrot story?
I can. I'll make it really quick.
It's
Everyone
apropos
is-
of what the TNT deals with on a daily.
Every one of you have seen the parrot. It's in a cage like this. The parrot's in the center.
The one that drops the eggs.
And you put a quarter in, and then his little beak goes, "Hi! Oh, I'm glad you told me." And his tail wiggles. "Oh, this is great!" And then the egg plops out, and that's it. And inside the egg, you may have some little piece of shit.
No, jeez, language. Talk about salty.
Anyway, I got it in this package deal maybe 5 months ago or something. And I said, I want this stupid parrot. And then I had a studio from New York looking for props that are not copyrighted. Because, see, if you have a centipede in your shoot, you have to get permission from whoever has Atari, whatever the thing is.
Whoever owns the rights.
Now, for instance, the movie that we were trying to make, the Skill Shot Baby, he had to pay $5,000 just to have the funhouse in the game.
To use it
To
in.
use the funhouse.
the movie.
$5,000.
And he didn't
And
buy
that-
it, right? That
right.
wasn't his.
No.
That
He had
was
to
just.
borrow the
Yep,
funhouse.
that was just to be able to put it
And
on
just to
film.
have us say Funhouse and Rudy, but he couldn't have the voice. So they couldn't get the rights to the voice. So he had somebody, a voice vocal artist, play Rudy. Now, if the movie ended up getting made, they would have gone a little more deeper.
Sure.
But the movie never. Actually, I was going to run you the 8-minute clip, but there was no projector. But
Back to the parrot.
But the parrot, they called and they wanted something unique and not a pinball machine. And I said, I have this talking parrot. I loved, oh, that's perfect. So we brought it over to the shop and cleaned it up. And the parrot ended up having some kind of a device that makes it move and a little motor in there. And the stalk had fractured in the middle. So I could only get the beak to talk. So when he talks like this, the tail wouldn't wiggle. And I figured we were in a rush, so we had to paint it. We actually had to paint it and everything. I got $500 or $600. They came and picked it up. They brought it back 2 weeks later. I'd love to know what shoot it is. We have loaned out or rented out a lot of stuff for shoots, movie shoots. We just did one for the Gary Heidnick documentary about the killer who had a Trident and a Mr. Do in his house.
Yep.
And we rented them out to them. But it's going for like 2 weeks. So anyway, I put it up on my bargain basement sale for $200.
You probably want to explain bargain basement.
I do a video, Chuck and I or Frank, whoever's there at the shop, we walk around and I slash the prices and stuff to generate money.
As is, no real guarantees, all electronics done. all
We'll
that kind of
guarantee
stuff.
it works.
Yeah, right. But not,
And
not
we'll fix
restored.
it down the
right.
road, but it's not gonna be restored. So I said, the parrot works, he talks, but his mouth has issues. You're gonna have to take the thing apart.
Your mouth has issues too, It does.
So anyway, $200. So I had this guy.
$200 for the whole thing, the
whole
cage, the parrot, the whole 9 yards.
So a guy from Massachusetts emails me, he says, I want to buy the parrot, how much total with shipping? And I said, well, I charge $50 to crate any of the bargain basements.
Pallet, all that
If
good
you
stuff.
pay retail, I include the crating. It takes 45 minutes, because you gotta find the right pallet, and you strap it to it, it has to be wrapped, and then wrapped in cardboard, and restrapped. It takes time. So anyway, I told him it was $360 to ship it. So he'd be paying $200 for the parrot, $50 for shipping, and then $360 to get it to him. Okay? And he says, no, he doesn't. He only wants the parrot doll. He only
That's
wants
exactly
the
how he
doll.
referred to it, the parrot
Parrot
doll,
doll.
which raises all kinds of strange
So I'm
questions.
thinking, So I said, okay, I'll tell you what, parrot doll, just the doll's $200 plus $35 to ship it. Well, that's what you want for the whole machine. Thank you. That's what you want for the whole machine.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you think I'm going to do with a cage with no doll in it, no parrot doll? What am I going to do with that, So he says, I'll give you 110 shipped. What's that?
Yes,
Kind of
that was very nice.
So now I'm going to have to take this apart and take the doll out, put it in a box, and ship it to him for $20.
And keep the
So I'm
rest
going
of
to
it.
get a big fat $90 minus all my time.
And you're going to have a cage that has no birding.
Yeah. So I said, no thanks. I said, that's sort of like saying, I want to buy your car, but I only want the front seats. And what is selling your car without the seats? Just the seats, and you can keep the car.
Exactly.
So he didn't get that. He didn't understand. So he came back to me again, and he says he really needs it. He really wants it, but he doesn't want the cages. So you can drive down, I'll load it up, and you can take the parts out and sell them. And I didn't hear back from him for days. In the meantime, another one of my customers said he wants to come down and pick it up, but he can't come down until December 3rd or some Sunday on December 3rd, but he'll give me the 200. So I said, sold.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the guy just got back to me, I guess 3 days ago, and he said he's now willing to give me $400, including shipping, for the entire machine. Oh, goody.
Yes,
I just can't
exactly.
wait. I said, I'll just give the shipper $360, and I'll crate it up for $50. And then I said, so you want me to give you the parrot for free, basically?
Yes, he
now,
does.
Now remember, all this conversation, you're sitting and you have to type answers to these people.
But let's be honest, you enjoy the back and forth because I've seen you. I've seen you sit in front of your computer terminal. Just you can't wait to go back to
With
these
the two
folks.
fingers,
Exactly.
pants down at my ankle.
Okay, but they didn't need to know that part.
Just typing away.
You know.
People, now of course I had the wonderful pleasure of emailing back and saying, I'm so sorry, but the parrot is sold.
It's the little things in life.
I did not hear back from Mr. Boaz. His email is Boaz.
Boaz Square.
Boaz.
Well, hopefully he is gone, and I know you have dealt with a number of difficult customers and, shall we say, unusual folks. But you've also got a huge population of kids who had their parties at your place, who've grown up and their kids have had their parties at your place.
We're second generation.
And sometimes third, the grandkids are there, I mean, depending on the age of the folks. And one of the reasons I think for that is that you make birthday parties kind of magical. If you don't know, one of the things Todd does, and one of the things that he's passionate about, in addition to the pinball and arcade world, is movies. And you started very early on showing cartoons at your parties, didn't you?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I collect film. If you follow me, I have another life. So, and that's about it. Just the two lives. But we collect real film.
The two you can talk about in
So
public.
I am into 16 millimeter film, which is what you used to see in high school and auditoriums and stuff before videotapes.
How many films do you have?
Well, I'm down. I had a problem with the FBI. I actually ended up being
I didn't know you were going to tell this
the
story.
last case in America with copyright issues. And I was the final case, and they said they were never going to pursue the copyrights again because they realized that there's people that rent and copy and distribute illegal copies, and then there's other people that purchase retired prints and collect. They literally collect. A lot of you, there was a big collector, Roddy McDowell, and he had a problem with the FBI because he had collected all these films. And none of the films were stolen. See, if you have a stolen film, it means somebody goes in, breaks in to a place, and takes the film and then drives away. But if the films are thrown out, which they were, I would get a call from our local station. Somebody there says they just threw out Gilligan's Island.
The whole island.
The whole one. All 75 episodes. They're all sitting in the dumpster. So you put the truck in gear and you're driving.
Just like that.
And then you're pulling the films out of the trash. That is trash. Would you not say that's trash?
It's been discarded. It's probably legally considered to be garbage.
Yes, and that we had issues like that. So if it gets thrown out, it's been written off.
Discarded.
It is no longer a viable thing. So if I went in to the Marriott's dumpster and
Like you
took
did
out,
last night.
for dinner, and I took out unopened food or whatever, it's been thrown out. They've written it off.
Right.
It's been just tossed. As a matter of fact, I'll bring back an interesting thing. I went to my distributor, Eastern Music. It's a wonderful man there. He was very good to me. And it was 83, 84. And we pulled up with the van. I had a worker at the time, Kurt. I think it was Kurt,
Who is still there.
Robbie. Kurt is my longest employee. He started working for me in '83.
And somehow he's still there.
He's still there. I have to call him to wake him up in the morning, so.
Sometimes in the
It's
afternoon.
daily. And then, yes, it's time to
Kurt
come in.
enjoys his sleep.
He loves his bed. So anyway, I went to Easter Music and there was a big dumpster. And I backed my van up because we were picking a game up. And I looked in the dumpster and you could see it was an open dumpster. And there were brand new monitors in it. Atari XY black and white monitors. There were the Geo8s that were used in Star Trek, all the Sega games,
Yep.
Space Fury, thrown into the dumpster. There was a barrel of brand new marquees.
Oh,
Quantum, this Pac-Man,
Wow.
tons of them. Overlays, hundreds of control panel overlays. Everything was going in the dumpster. And of course, wait. So we started pitching the stuff. I didn't take the monitor that some of the necks broke. So I kept all the monitors that the necks didn't break on. The Atari black and white vector games had a cage around it to
Yep.
protect the tube.
Yep.
And I got tons of brand new parts, just tons of them. There were ramps. There weren't many because there was not. They were cleaning all their parts out because they were not going to keep parts for old Stern pinballs anymore. They were done. They had enough. They weren't going to keep Asteroids control panel over. There's nothing. And I just got tons of them. Marquees, stacks of marquees, brand new with the backing still on.
yep.
And so I got everything out that we could, and I felt really bad. So I went up to Phil in his office. Because now remember, this is all going in the dumpster. I said, Phil, let me give you a check. I said, all this wonderful stuff. I said, and he says, I remember he shook his head and he says, Todd, if it's in the dumpster, it's trash. You don't have to pay me anything. So I'm glad I asked, because I would have felt really bad, but they didn't even make an attempt to sell any of this stuff. So I framed the marquees, dozens and dozens and dozens of them.
Yep.
Back then, in the old days, it was only $20 to have a nice wooden frame put in it, right? Sealed in paper in the back and a hook. The picture frame was only charged $20 back then. Posters, I had tons of posters for old Atari pinballs and all this shit. I had them framed.
There's that
was
word again.
more because you had glass. You had to put glass in the front. But and they're still hanging on the wall. That's how I outfitted my showrooms. We hung up all the stuff that we had gotten, and most of it was brand new. I will tell you a story of one man. I don't think I've shared this one before. A man kept coming in to purchase every Friday. He got his paid money, and he would come in and he'd want to spend $200 or $300, and he bought a brand new marquee, a brand new overlay, and he would come in and look at the list and said, I'll take the overlay and the marquee, and then sometimes we had the monitor bezel, but very rare. So he'd buy the overlay for crossbow, and then he'd buy the marquee for crossbow. And then I said, okay, that was $60 or $70, whatever. And then he would buy, I actually had a quantum, that's why they came up, a quantum overlay and a marquee. I said, that's $100, because it was glass.
Right.
And then every week, and I have $300. That's good. $300 now. That's back in the old days. So that would be
So that was good money.
89, 90, 88, 90.
That was good money.
Yeah, it was really great money. So I made the big mistake 1 week after maybe 6 weeks of this. Made an incredibly horrible mistake. And I said to him, he's giving me the money, I said, my goodness, you must have a great collection of games. And he says, no, I live in an apartment. So of course I did the usual, what are you doing with these? My second fatal mistake.
I know where this is going.
And he says, well, when I want to play crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
I put the marquee down on the table,
Mm-hmm.
then I put the overlay down, and then I close my eyes and I pretend I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yes, I didn't actually say, oh. I blinked my eyes, and everything was, what's he saying? Did I hear that right?
You did.
Oh. I did let out an O.
It takes all kinds.
I didn't say that. I couldn't think of anything to say.
wow.
That's interesting, or something like that. And I guess that was the last time I saw him. I never saw him again.
Because you had peeked behind the curtain and he had divulged what it is he was doing, and probably just as you made the mistake, he realized, geez, I made a mistake telling him my story and probably shouldn't show my face there again. So, but these things happen. They absolutely do. I want to come back to the pinball and arcade industry in just a second, but can I ask you to tell the Mel Brooks story? Very quickly.
Well, what is trash?
Because I know you were talking about finding things in dumpsters.
I did. I have something Mel Brooks doesn't have.
You have something Mel Brooks doesn't have.
He doesn't have,
I know.
and it's his.
I know. Oh, I know.
In the old days, when you shot a movie, you had the camera that had film in it, just film. And then you had a separate man sitting on this big moving rack with tapes, reel-to-reel tapes, that recorded everything. And that's what the clapper's for, because the picture's on film and the sound's on tape. Now, after they finish the shot for the day, they may do 5 shots of scene 2. So they've seen scene 2, take 3,
Click.
or whatever. After they finish, the director, in this case Mel Brooks, says, let's print 3 and 6, meaning they'll print just those films,
Just those tapes.
those tapes. The tape, the reel-to-reel tape, there's a tape for each scene. The tape is 30 minutes long, but they may have a 2-minute scene. It doesn't matter. They only use one tape, so then they put it in a box and it says scene 2. And there's a paper and it circles the takes. The tape is transferred to another department that prints it on magnetic film. Actually, movie film, but it's magnetic. It's got all
Yep.
full wide magnetic. And then they edit the sound from the magnetic tape, not from the reel-to-reel tape. And then all the tape from the movie is discarded. That's the end. They're done because they transfer everything they want. Now, I don't know if they transfer the entire tape or just the scenes he wanted, but who knows. So anyway, in one of my dumpster dives, back in I guess around 70, 71, I found all these reel-to-reel tapes in boxes. And I said, oh, this is great. You know, the price is
Real
right.
tapes. Woo.
I loaded them in the car. And then later I looked at them and I said, oh, Mel Brooks, The 12 Chairs. And it turns out I have about 190 tapes of the 230 tape movie. So the tapes contain stuff like Mel Brooks saying, let's break for cigarettes, it has cursing in it.
All
He
the
tells
behind the
jokes.
scenes sort of stuff that you otherwise would never have seen.
All right, take it, you know, or cut it. All this stuff is on the reel tapes. And oddly enough, I bought them when I got them. When I got the tapes, I was going to sell them at the flea market for $1 each. But I kept them. And I kept them in a shed that was unair conditioned and unheated for until I moved out of the house in 2007. They sat in this shed. So they endured an awful lot of heat changes. I mean, unbelievable, just sitting there.
Yep, moisture.
So I put it on I had an old school Wallen sack, and they're beautiful. The high fidelity sound, it's just incredible. Back then it would have been mono.
Right.
But they sound great. So my plan was I had somebody sitting and listening to them and writing down stuff that we could use clips from, is possibly offering them back to Mel. I got to do something soon if we're going to do anything. Say, if I can meet you in person.
He's getting a bit old. Yes.
If I can meet you in person, I'll give you back your soundtrack. Of course, there's nothing you could really do with that because now, boy, if they were the soundtrack to Blazing Saddles.
Oh, well, yeah, that would have been different. Would have been a slightly different perspective, too.
It would be the 12 Chairs.
Of course.
But it's Dom DeLuise and Frank Langella.
Yep.
This is the second film. Or I would have taken the first film. That would have been the producers.
Producers, absolutely.
Can you imagine all that, And there's a lot of stuff you never hear from these movies and things.
It's a fascinating insight into
There's
what
no
was
video,
going
there's
on.
no film, it's just sound.
It's almost like eavesdropping. It's fascinating. Just truly fascinating.
We never asked if they had any questions.
Well, I'm going to. Listen, I ask the questions, you give them the stories, and then we're going to get
We
to
have to be careful.
I'm watching.
But I don't see anybody, we may have a couple.
You see what I'm doing
people.
over here?
Good, okay, you're right on top of it.
I know, I'm good at this. Speaking of fascinating, so we've gone down, excuse me, memory lane a little bit. Obviously, you've seen a lot of changes in both the pinball industry and the arcade industry. From on the pinball side, from EMs to solid states to the virtuals. I mean, you and I were playing Final Resistance the other night, which is pretty amazing. We saw the virtual pinballs at Chicago Expo as well, which are utterly amazing. I mean, they've got the physics down now that you literally would believe you're actually playing a real pinball machine. It's the technology is amazing. Where do you see? Let's talk about the pinball industry for just a second, then we'll come back to arcade. Where do you see this going? Where's pinball going ultimately? Are we on the cusp of another horizon? Is technology going to take over, or do you think we're going to see a fall back to, let's say, more of the solid state games?
I don't think virtual pinball will ever go anywhere. That's my opinion, because the physical pinball is one of a kind. It's still handmade. Pinball machines are all hand built. You can't get around that.
Yep.
You can do certain things without people, but most of it's hand built. The circuit boards.
We saw that firsthand when we toured the Stern facility. Everything is done by hand. There's hundreds of people,
all the screws,
literally doing everything by hand.
Yeah, and the harnesses, everything is still hand made. Now, the virtual pinballs are bringing new people in to the hobby.
Mm-hmm. Younger people?
Yes and no. We've always had a problem getting kids involved, as you all know. My two daughters, I have one daughter that's interested, the other has zero interest. So I don't think that's ever going to change.
Probably not.
Our biggest problem now is prices. And the prices, I always said it started from the Banning auction, if you remember that.
Yep.
Ill-fated auction.
Yep.
My gosh.
So basically, the Banning auction.
I got to tell them about that.
Go ahead.
I arranged with Beltman, a tractor trailer. I could get 46 machines in a tractor trailer. I got a price of $8,075 to deliver the tractor trailer from Banning to me, my warehouse, to my loading dock. It would cost $225 a machine to have it wrapped and loaded. So I had that down pat. So I went there, just like all of you, or we went to the bank, and we're looking at the games and we're typing in our high bid.
This was all
Close
online.
Encounters. I said, well, I have to calculate the $225 to pack it, and then the cost of 46 games. So I have to add that into the price I'm paying, plus the 15% or 16%.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I could go up to $850 in the Close Encounters. So, and see, here's an Elvira. Now, brand new, it's $8,000. So, I could probably go $5,500 on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway,
how'd that work out for you?
I didn't get a single one.
And why is that?
Well, when Close Encounters sells as is,
As
for
is.
$3,300, And then I calculate the extra one, 4,000 for closing cabinets. And then, as a lot of you discovered, these were not museum quality. There were a few, but most of them had rat's nests in them, and wires cut, coils hanging.
They needed work.
Boards missing. I mean, these things were a mess. And I'm sitting there when Elvira went, what was it, 15,000?
Yes. Yeah.
I said, what for a used one?
For
It's like
used Elvira.
now, this is the new Elvira, the Stern one. They
Right.
actually had a couple new ones.
Right.
So that my auction, I was crushed because I went to do all that effort, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get some pinballs to sell. I wasn't going to get any pinballs, and as all of you know, that's when everything went nuts.
Yep.
About
Well-
3 months later, Stern literally went nuts on the pricing.
Yep. And everyone followed.
Everybody
suit.
followed.
Almost everyone. I mean, some of the boutiques haven't, but yes.
You know, the boutiques are high.
Well, but I mean, you have like Spooky Pinball, who just came out and said, our next machine, top of the line, will not crack $10,000. So, I mean, you do have some American Pinball, I mean, put aside, kind of what they've been doing. They held prices until Galactic Tank Force, and that wasn't terrible. But Stern and Jersey Jack are definitely driving the market, and you're seeing other boutiques falling into play as well. I mean, it's the market. It absolutely is. So are you like everyone else, and you think a correction is coming?
We would have to, because sales are at a rock bottom low.
What about
Warehouses are full.
What about the arcade machines?
They have dropped off heavily. Certain collectible games have held their value, but for the most part, everything has skidded. I guess that's a good word.
I think that's fair.
It's skidded. So I've sold over 35,000 machines now, and mostly used. The problem now is a lot of the games, people, you can't, I mean, how many people in this room can buy 5 new games and have $50,000 ready to
If not
put in
more.
the 5 games
Yeah,
in the
if not more.
lineup? So now we're offering trade-ins. For the first time, my distributor is Mike Dodona, one of
Automated.
the services, a wonderful man. You can call him direct too. And you can pick it up from TNT, we can arrange shipping, whatever.
And he's at
So we're kind of
pinballs.com, right?
partners. Yes, pinballs.com. And he, for the first time, is having an open house, first Saturday in December.
December 2nd.
So I'm going to drive up. It's about 3 hours from TNT. I'm going to be there. And he's going to offer trade-ins, really great money for your used games toward brand new ones. Because he's got plenty of brand new games to get rid of.
You got to adapt. You got to
Yes.
do what you got to do. Speaking of doing what we got to do, I see that the Hart twins and the Wolfgang twins have walked in, and especially those guys who pounded
And it's
me into the
Vol-
table. I said it with a V.
You have
I
to
said
say it with a
I
V.
did.
You get pissed off if you say it with a W.
We can't have that. So in the couple of minutes we have left, anybody have any questions for Todd?
It was supposed to be a Q&A.
We did a Q&A.
Yeah, but you did the Q's.
They didn't say I couldn't do the cubes. Come on. Nowhere in the program did it say they're going to do the cubes.
Yeah, we have a little time.
We
Yeah,
got a couple
do.
minutes, but I want to be cognizant of everyone's time
They
today
have
as
to
well.
set up the equipment.
Any thoughts, any comments, any questions for Todd? Jason?
When buying a new or used pinball machine, what's the most important thing to look for?
Well, new, I should point that out with new. Back when we were buying new pinballs, like if you unpacked a brand new Black Knight, 1980, you had to take it out of the box and set it up and then fix it.
Yep. That's
So
not that
most
far
of
off
the
from today,
games
by the
do
way.
not.
Very true.
And then you have to get the old Sharpie.
And
Get
do the
all-
touch-up.
Get all colors
Do the touch-ups.
and go through it. Now, of course, back then we were drilling holes in the front for the lock bar.
Right.
But nothing's changed. The chances of you opening up a game brand new out of the box, that's taken 2,000 miles to get to your house over the truck. you have to do adjustments. There's loose screws. There's rubbers missing sometimes. The cables get loose. It's
Packing
just the way
material
it
that
is.
shifted, toys that have moved.
So when people want to take a new game, pick up a game in the box and take it from TNT, I always say that, look, you're going to have to do some adjustments. It is normal. It is just the way it is. So be prepared, and I can help you up over the phone. I would prefer to open it. You can even be here. I'll open it up, and we'll go through and check everything, make sure all the screws are tight. That I've gotten games in. There were no legs in them.
It
No
happens.
legs.
Are legs important? I'm just kidding.
Set it on the table. They were the Willy Wonkas. They
Yep,
got packed
I
with no
remember.
legs. I don't know how that happened.
Somebody skipped leg day. Never skip leg day.
It's all ready. Just seal it up. You know what I mean? So it's always best. So used, you look for rust and water lines.
Yep.
There were a lot of flood games.
Yep.
So I did this as a rule. We had a lot of games that were underwater because of the shore and stuff. So when I got a flood game and I took a black magic marker, a fat one, and I put the letter F inside the game on the left wall of the machine, kind of where the volume pot would be on an older game or something. So if I got the game back, I'd say flood. So I knew it was a flood game. I'd never forget the amazing thing, and I wish I could find the picture. We went to a guy's house, and he said that his games were underwater. What should he do? And he was only a few blocks away. We went over there, and I got the chance to see Water World, a brand new one he bought from me.
Underwater?
And the water line was all the way up to Kevin Costner's face. It was amazing.
Some
So the
people would
machine was-
say.
it was clean water.
Some people would say it should have been over Kevin Costner's face, particularly those who saw that movie.
So anyway, the water drained out. We took it outside. They took the glass off, opened the machine wide to the sun. 2 days later, everything is dry. The transformer was underwater. And do you know, 2 days later, we plugged it in and the damn thing worked. It actually worked. And because of the sunlight is miracles, and that dried everything out. However, the mechanisms at some point, I'm sure, will start to
Of course.
show the issues and stuff, but the games got sold with an F for flood. I said, look, you buy this like brand new Water World for $800 or $1,000. So it's underwater, it may last forever and never give you a problem. I never heard back from the people.
Maybe it did.
And the insurance paid the people.
So speaking of miracles, we've actually ended on time. Anybody else has any questions or thoughts? Todd and I will hang around
We
out
could do
out
one
front.
more question.
You want to do one more?
One more. Does
Okay.
anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can we end this interview?
An interview?
That's what I
Oh,
did.
go
Come
ahead.
on.
What is your favorite preparation?
Oh, I know the answer to this question. Give them the top 5 real quick.
I'll tell you what, I'll narrow it down to 5. Big Bang Bar.
Yep.
Now these are my favorites.
Yes.
Pinbot.
Yes.
The Class of 1812.
Yes.
Funhouse.
Yes.
And
What?
Total Nuclear Annihilation.
What about Theater of Magic?
Theater of Magic's in there too.
I thought you were going to say TNA is your favorite machine right now.
Well, I have one. Actually, TNA is the only brand new pinball machine I have purchased since Theater of Magic for myself. So that's 30 years. This Theater of Magic I bought new for 1985. I told my wife, if this game doesn't sell for Christmas, I'm bringing it home.
There you go.
And I brought it home. I've since sold it, but I still have my TNA. I actually have it set up at TNT for everybody to play. It's got thousands of plays.
Yes, it
on
does.
I
It's
haven't
been
had any
rock
trouble
solid.
with
No,
it.
it's been rock solid. Absolutely
Yeah.
agree. All right, we should wrap up.
Thank
Ladies
you,
and
guys.
gentlemen, a round of applause for the legendary Todd Tuckey.
Am I legendary?
Sometimes.
In my own mind. Make sure, though, you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get up to 50,000 subscribers. I'm desperate now.
Yes, you are.
Now, I do now have TikTok, which I hate the format, but you can make the video like this, and then you could upload it, and you're on the air, and we're getting thousands of views, more than YouTube. Isn't that something?
It's a beautiful thing.
I think it's a different group of people, but it's, you just do what you gotta do.
Go for that younger generation.
So, and then we're on Instagram, but very rarely. I
And
don't
of course,
get
the
shit.
website.
Oh, yeah, our website, and we have a QR code that'll take you everywhere, including a walking tour
yep,
at
virtual
TNT.
tour.
So you can use your mouse or your finger and walk through the rooms of the showroom.